Good afternoon. This is Cave Crusher Benjamin Higby, and today I am going to talk about the current problems facing which comes closer to home, um, such as the energy crisis. And I'm going to discuss the ironic reality of this whole BS. And I'm going to start with the short story so I can get into this problem. During last week or this week, um, my father was trying to resolve the energy crisis, and it's been the past month. It's not just past week, but it's recently. He installed the solar panel system on the roof in hopes of reducing um, the energy prices, you know, the costs of electricity. Um, and What was ironic is that during the installation process, a worker was delayed twice, um, who was carrying his van up the M25. And group, this group, he was delayed by these just stop oil um, groupies on the motorway. And to me, this was ironic for since this worker was supposed to come to install the solar energy systems was stuck in a obnoxious movement that have been funded, those that claim to talk about saving the planet for future generations, the younger generations, and doing all this theatrics on the motorway and the throwing stuff on the in a museum. It's all about making the ordinary folks guilty, and you know it's ironic of them on the street motorway to be on the motorway while everybody's stuck on the motorway with running their petrol, and which was, to me, it was becoming more constant and nuisance across the media. And in the UK, I know there is some Commonwealth nations like Canada that's facing something similar with these groups. That these people have been promoted in mainstream media, and these people are just not a new group. They come from somewhere, and they come from Extinction Rebellion. They have symbols across my place in uni, back in Cambridge, and they have their mark. They put their marks in abandoned buildings and active buildings in my area in Essex as well, Colchester. this is ironic to me because I wanted to know who was behind all this just oil bullshit and what is the reason for it. After speaking with Aunt BB, um, I discovered there's um, there's a reason for all of this that is happening and continuing to happen with these people. And many people have been looking behind who has been donating to these groups and the oil tycoon heiress of Getty. And I know they deal with Getty images as well. So this is a great PR stunt for them. And I don't, I won't be surprised this particular photo will be sponsored by Getty themselves to publish into all these PR media, mainstream media networks. This an oil tycoon is being reported by Art News. An oil tycoon, Harris, has donated $1 million to climate activists behind Vanguard tomato soup protest, and this was October 25th, 2022. So it's been happening for a couple of weeks. Um, oh, this stupid website, pop-ups and whatever. Which is funny because there is groups like the co-founder of the this group, the non-profit Climate Emergency Fund, which is basically slush fund for business groups, oil tycoon, big business elites who have lots of slush funds, stashing their wealth from our taxpayers' nose under our taxpayers' noses, um, are pushing this nonsense across the UK while Europe is facing energy crisis. And US oil tycoon is one of the players that's doing this. And the reason why this is happening, I have to link it because it all connects after discussing with BB that they are doing this to prolong the sanctions against Russia and its energy, its energy system of cheap natural gas. It's all about unleashing war against cheap natural gas that Western Europe relies on, especially for the winter seasons. And this is basically spiritual warfare against ordinary folks, living standards, basic needs um, to live, to survive, especially in harsh conditions when it comes to climate. The climate, which is winter, autumn, it's not all of this is, quote unquote climate change. Before that, it was global warming. Not happening. Not happening. It's the reality is different, and there's plenty of science reports that talk about global cooling. So they are doing this, talking about stopping the use of fossil fuels, and which is ironic because they believe the solution is to dig up minerals from countries on batteries. We should live off batteries. And batteries is not just the cars; it's the solar panel systems. It's all about getting those resources from the South and Asian countries, mucking up their environment. Just like I've seen the industrial um, digging and the environmental disasters of corporations um, with their battery industry. There's plenty of um, videos on that, and Scott has a absolute great. He has a he has a wonderful video on that, and I forgot the video. It was weeks back, but he has really exposed this, and I recommend you going to his videos, um, which is very important to understand. I'll If I find the video, I'll put it on the link underneath the video. Um, but for now, I don't want to drag on finding the video. I'm going to focus on why they're doing this and why there's a connection to this, and there's big people behind it, like Getty, Rebecca Rockefeller, Lambert, another oil tycoon cycle, which they published an op-ed um, on the Guardian, the the MI6 Guardian, um, using this climate activism, which is just astroturf movements for the same old speculative economic system we live under in the West, unregulated markets. Um, Talking about fossil fuel extraction made, the families rich, and calling for a systemic shift to clean energy. And remember my old videos, or Scott videos, I believe, talking about Larry Fink trying to change human behavior with this strategy. And it is full of hypocrisy and it's full of BS that this is what they push. They push. And I do remember, yeah, one stupid girl talking about this is our children's future on Sky Snooze, Murdoch's channel, um, of the formerly News Corporation, pushing this rubbish. While Murdoch, ironically, has genie oil, you know, interests in Syria, in other places in the Middle East, stealing oil, um, fucking up the environment, while we sit on our flatulence lecturing peasant human beings in the West that it's their fault for the fuck up of the environment, is this and that. And, while they push alarmism with the climate crap, which is nothing more than speculative futures market. It's all about what they can extract. It's all about capital expansion. It's got nothing to do with the environment. It's got nothing to do with saving the planet. And I do remember talking about um, their favorite wingman for the job in Brazil with their um, hours before, days before the conclusion of the selections in Brazil, rigged selections, electronic voting system there that is similar to the US, which is very, um, it's not a coincidence of how these systems work. Um, that this man is their wingman and talking about Lula talking about a clean environment, on all this dribble, dribble, climate dribble. Um, and I saw it on Twitter that, I think it was Insider or the Insider talking about the Amazon forest with Lula. And it's all about geopolitical wedge. It's all about geopolitical wedge between um, on targeted countries with Brazil. It's what they can do with the odd man in BRICS, Brazil, like South Africa. Um, it's all about stomping on these countries and many countries that are trying to de-dollarize because they can't stand this inflationary system that is harming people's basic needs across the globe, not just the westernized world, but across the globe, because, the reality is global debt, which is private debt, mostly private debt, is denominated in US dollars. And what is the US dollar itself? It's not just a currency of the United States, it's a world reserve currency that brings United States exorbitant privilege to use and weaponize United States. You weaponize not just the United States at home and across the westernized world, but to weaponize the world with their currency, with economic destabilization, whereas they see fit for their own interests. So this is the reality of the global economy. And when I talk about global economy, I talk about the global economy of westernized countries that have capital markets that are interconnected with each other, while they have foreign investors investing into it, which includes targeted countries, which recently is not a coincidence that right after the Jackson Hole um, agenda for this transition to continue, Plan B, you know, and many plans since the Rona psyop has flopped and failed. We need other means, and Ukraine PR is falling off a bit as well. So they need they need other means to make sure the transition continues, this transitioning to the Great Reset that it has been conducted by the World Economic Forum NGO, big business NGO that represents, 2,000 multinationals that have been pushing um, climate agendas and climate carbon applications and all these Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies to track our carbon and to make way for our G7 countries to tax ordinary folks on their carbon usage. And that is the goal. That's why they're trying to subsidize solar systems that my father has installed in his house to reduce the cost of energy that is plaguing because he's preparing for the winter. He's preparing for this, you know, and he's doing everything as he can to reduce that cost. And this is the only way out, unfortunately, with this. And after UK, my country, played a massive role in destroying Western Europe's um, bridge with Russia on Nord Stream 1 and 2, among the other pipelines Russia has across not just Europe, but the Black Sea that connects with Turkey. But those ones are still active. But those main ones, Nord Stream 1 and 2, destroyed, sliced up, because UK played a role with the United States, and it has been going on for a long time. This was the goal for the past 20 plus years post the 9/11, and this was part of the project for New American Century. This is what we do. This is what we were planning to do 20 years ahead, and we are here 20 years later facing this reality from the PNAC agenda goals. So this one, and I don't have to show you what's her name, Condoleezza Rice interview with in German TV back in 2014 on trying to get Europe the quote unquote alternative sources of oil back to the US market, the US oil market, away from Russia, because Russia's oil is a threat to the Western Axis goals, the Anglo American elite axis. So, this is why they're doing what they're doing. And Extinction Rebellion is playing a massive role in that strategy, where people is for the past couple of months in the late summer and the autumn period that they have been protesting against Ukraine, because the Ukraine PR has been falling off, trying to get our governments, our Western governments, to drop the sanctions against Russia, so we can have cheap natural gas for the winter season, so we don't freeze to death. But they are doing this to make sure this transition will be painful as possible, so ordinary people like my dad cave in to the alternatives, like these solar systems being installed in the home. So, one of these donors with this Extinction Rebellion money, men, has been revealed for a long time, that goes back October 2019. And this was a couple months before the Rona psyop, a year before the Great Reset announcement. So, UK billionaire worth 1.2, and this was during this article was published, ironically, during the time they were prepping Event 201. So this was this was a plan going back decades. So on this article, Extinction Rebellion money men revealed UK billionaire worth 1.2 billion pounds. Band Radiohead are among major donors, plowing hundreds of thousands of pounds into the economy. And this is part of the Just Oil group. They come from Extinction Rebellion. This Extinction Rebellion is the group. The Just Oil is more of their campaign against the fossil fuels. Just Oil is not really a group. It's Extinction Rebellion. That is the group, to be clear. So Christopher Horn is one of the richest men in the UK. Give Has given a hefty £50,000 to the environmental group, who unleashed a 3-day Hong Kong style, yes, destabilization of Hong Kong back in 2019. Hong Kong style protests, the umbrella tactics. On BB has good videos on that, and this is exactly what they are bringing home. Chickens coming home to roost with that strategy. At the London City Airport today, and that's what I read from there. And who is Christopher Horn? He's one of the richest men in the UK. Um, these are these billionaires, and he's not the only one. He's among other players. Radiohead pictured had already given £250,000. Um, the founder of lingerie firm Agent Provocateur, founder and son Dame Vivienne Westwood, has donated £50,000. Andrew Medway, a former bank trader who organizes the group's donations, said more than half of donations have been raised online, and more than 6,000 people have donated more than 600,000 this week, £600,000 this week. So these groups, these 6,000 people are not just they're not ordinary folks donating the 6,000 people who are among the 1% who are donating to this Extinction Rebellion group activities. The US organization Climate Emergency Fund, which is mainly financed by Alien Getty, the oil heiress, 62 years old, the granddaughter of J. Paul Getty, once the world's richest man, has given £330,000 to the protesters. As well as donations, a number of stars have joined the protest that started um, in London on Monday. Blah blah blah. Like Benedict Cumberbatch, these Hollywood stars and UK stars, Daisy Lowe, comedian Ruby Wax, and actors Juliet Stevenson and Mark Rylance. The climate alarm activists appealed for donations following a police raid on its warehouse in Kennington, South London. The warehouse where probably the slush funds are kept. Last week, in which tents and other equipments were seized. Its fundraiser for October's London protests last night generated more than £825,000 to these interests so far. You see, these interests are profiting off these nonsense projects, um, so-called protests. Um, they say the protests in the capital are part of an international rebellion, quote unquote, international rebellion happening in cities. Yes, cities, not villages, not small towns, cities, cities across the world. Talking about calling for quote unquote urgent action to tackle climate change and wildlife losses. Cities. Um, I find that very funny, um, because this is Cities is historically, you know, big business playground, and historically, during its colonies, what the empires, big business empires, did back in the day of the Anglo sphere. They go into countries they colonized, conquered, and grabbing all the youths to the cities to work under them, to work under their plantations. And this still continues into the 21st century of sweatshops, corporate sweatshops, and where the workers have substandard living, no dignity, and these corporations pat themselves in the back and do feel good projects on making shitty houses for them where they live in sardines living conditions and shitty conditions. One day, I remember Scott talking about these 3D printed houses. One day they can use all sorts of materials from the gutter of piss and shit and all the toiletries nonsense that's swimming to build these basic houses. The same way Red Cross, these smelly charity organizations, NGOs that pretend that they are helping vulnerable people around the globe, poor people around the globe. Just exploitation, nothing but exploitation, and that is exactly what they are trying to push. This model of quote unquote climate change is not about um, protecting the environment. It's not about pollution. It's all about people's way of life. It's all about your carbon, but not pollution. Ignore the corporate pollution, multinational pollution, and their environmental damages to create their product, their green eco product. And it's all about destroying economies. It's all about making sure you don't produce, you just speculate. Continue with that same old trickle down fake economies. These fake economies we have in the West that produce nothing but debt. It's all about getting indebted. It's all about making sure that you are just a consumer class. You don't produce nothing. You just outsource to other places in the world that produce, while we shut down more industries of produce, and making sure that we control the infrastructure. It's all about controlling the population while we speculate out of Wall Street, out of City of London, capital markets, making money while we produce nothing. Because these people will do anything. These people at the top will do anything, like they've been doing across the globe for decades. They will do anything in the West to make sure their capital is protected, their investments are protected. And if it means without any hard infrastructure, if it means blowing up our infrastructure into smithereens, leaving us with absolute nothing but dire, they will do it as long as their capital is protected. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn. That's what Scott was talking about in his other videos, and that is correct about these people at the top. So these are the mega rich Extinction Rebellion backers. We all know about George Soros' Open Society, pushing for open markets. We all know some people, lots of people don't know all these other ones, but there's Vivian Westwood's son, Joe Core, with the lingerie of nonsense, and yeah, $48 million net worth. The European Climate Foundation, US company, which is that funnels the capital into American philanthropic foundations to European climate projects. So it's all about controlling that European zone through the Wall Street interests and City of London and other financial centres that are interconnected with each other across the westernized Anglosphere. So you have this Greenpeace as well in there, Tides Foundation, and then this little known Swiss asset management company called Furka Holdings, founded by a banker with Russian links, and I assume business links. When I mean when that person means Russian links, it's the business links. It's the fifth columnists, it's the subverts, the business interests that don't give a damn about Russian Federation, but themselves. It's all about them and their global village to do the fuck they want across the globe. These guys, Furka Holdings, gave £50,000 to Extinction Rebellion, and this is what these eco-fascist protests, so-called protests, AstroTurf group has achieved for its elite sponsors, who are mostly oil tycoon people, with big business interests that serve um, World Economic Forum Great Reset agenda. This is the examples what they've been doing for some time, for the past couple of years. This one, I remember BB gave me a link of their past projects, like preventing a man from saying goodbye to his dying father, prevent him from going to the funeral or hospital, because their roadblock prevented him getting to the hospital in time. Exposed the police to ridicule after the officer was filmed skateboarding to show how down with the green kids he was during a protest at which Extinction Rebellion had blocked an entire London bridge by turning it into a mini Glastonbury. The cost the taxpayer at least £60 million for extra policing, plus untold millions more for the cost of dealing with the 1,200 Extinction Rebellion activists, faketivists, arrested in 11 days of protests, threatened to ruin the summer holidays of thousands of travellers with a plan happily nixed to use drones to shut down Heathrow Airport. I remember that report from 2019 cost London businesses upwards of £12 million in lost revenues. They they are using my generation, my youth, to be a voice for these globalists, big business globalists, and is to make sure they groom the youths, passing generations. This this rotten, savage capitalist model, um, and poison it through the school. The indoctrinated systems we have been indoctrinating to the youth for a long time, and this is a continuation of it. It's it's a fucked up situation we are living under. It's a fucked up system, and the more you expand your worldview of things, you start to see that it all makes sense. It all makes sense. You see the bigger picture and what they are doing and what they're trying to manipulate people, especially my generation, into this nonsense. And it does not serve the ordinary folks, it only serves the elite. And we all know the elite goal is to turn the population into complete serfs, stateless, stateless serfs of the global village, to do things for the greater good, things that goes against our rights, human rights, civil liberties, for their corporate interests. We all know Extinction Rebellion, 35% comes from so-called sympathetic trusts, basically just slush funds. 54% comes from online crowdfunding, the online slush fund. About 11% comes from individual donors of the elite. Most donors are happy to be named, some of the elites, but and all those giving more than £5,000, that those billionaires, millionaires, but others are not. Others, basically banksters, other groups, other financial groups that have interests, connected interests, you know, with the whole financial system, the economic system, the whole business world. They don't want to be revealed, and families don't want to be revealed. Elite families as well that runs and own these entities that that refuse to be named in the donors list for Extinction Rebellion. So the group talk dribble about having financial transparency. They do this because without compromising the privacy of individuals and all that bullshit. Talking about we have a policy of openness and blah blah blah. It's all the project, this whole school project, AstroTurf project, Extinction Rebellion that claims to be grassroots are just wealthy people's AstroTurf project to make lives miserable as possible, to make the lives of ordinary people miserable, make it hard as possible to make them give in to their transition agenda And make sure don't you protest against our agenda. Don't protest against our foreign policy that backs the agenda to move away from cheap natural gas. That's what it is about. So I hope you learn some things out of it. It's very hard to explain because I didn't have every link with me, but I try to um, not returgigate and dribble all over. I'll just make it consistent and clear. Um, and I will send some links. I'll put links down for critical videos of BB that is important to understand this shit. Same with Scott videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Um, I think I'll explain more on my mom's country in the next video, which links to this. See you in the next video.